Okay, I think we should be up any moment from now on YouTube. I don't know if any of us are on YouTube, so we can confirm everything is up. The only issue, like I said, for those just joining us now, is I'm having a bit of an issue with my camera. For some weird reason, it just started acting up to like a few seconds ago. So, but we're hoping that it gets resolved before tomorrow. So bear with me. You might run today's session without you seeing me. But the good thing is that I will be sharing my screen most of the time. So you probably don't need to see me anyways. Yes, so like I said, welcome again, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's event. This is our sixth event of the Wikimedia Africa. And today we will be looking at or do a continuation of the Pythonic journey with Ben. And so I'll run through a brief recap of what we've done before, so that everybody, at least those that missed it or have not revisited it, will have a bit of an idea of what we did or what we have done. And also, yeah, thank you, Victor, for confirming that. And also, yes, I will be sharing my screen most of the time. So yeah, that one is there. So let me share the screen. One last thing. Let me see before I share my screen. Let me just open up this. Voila. Okay, so let me share my screen. Hopefully this doesn't have issues too. Let's see my screen. Okay, I hope we can all see the screen. If you can see the screen, just let me know. If you can't, also let me know. So, what you can see on my screen, I'm hoping you can all see my screen. What you can see is Google Colab. For those of us who have, what's it called? Who have wiki accounts, Wikimedia accounts, be it in Wikipedia or any of the wiki accounts, you can use this, the pause. You can use pause. If you do not know what pause is, it's just like Google Colab, Jupyter Notebook. I'm using this word Jupyter Notebook because this is what we used. I'm using Colab because that's what we used during our last session. So I'm hoping that everybody understands that. But just in case if you do not understand that, Google, what's it called? Colab and Pause. These are just platforms that allow us to have, what's it called? Write our codes online. I don't need to have a big system to be able to run or write a Python code with the softwares like Google Colab, with servers, cloud services like Google Colab and Pause. I can write my code online. For those of us who do not want to do this, who have already installed other notes editors, like say you have Jupyter Lab installed or Jupyter Notebook installed on your laptop, you could use that and just start it up. If you have VS Code, you could use that as well. If you have any note editor that you can use to write Python, you could use that as well. I think I'm having serious network issues here. Okay, yeah, I think we're up. Okay, so we'll do a brief recap. This is what we intend to cover. And the good thing is we've covered almost half of it, more than half of it actually, during our first edition of this event, the Pythonic journey with Ben. So what we'll be doing today is we'll continue, like I said, from where we stopped. And yes, somebody's asking no recordings. There is recording. We have the previous event is recorded and it is on the project page, the resource page. We'll also bring it here in YouTube as well. So you can also access it here in YouTube, hopefully before, this week. We'll do that before, maybe on Sunday when we're done with this session as well. And I think the internet is just sluggish today. So we'll be using Google Colab. I will be using Google Colab for this, with this Jupyter notebook, like I said. I hope this opens just a second. Let's see what's happening on the network. Let me see. So for those of you who do not know how to go to Colab, just type Colab or just Google Colab. So this is the URL colab.research.google. If you have a, what's it called? If you have a Google account, you should be able to use this. So I just posted it on the chat. Should be able to use this. So those of you on Zoom, you could just check your chat, so you see this. You can just Google this and just open it. Once you have, you don't need an extra account. Once you have a Google account, you can use this. Just go to Colab. It's sort of like your Google Doc, but this is for writing Python codes. So if you want to also, you can also use Pause. Pause also does the same, also have the cloud there. So you can also use this. Just go to Pause, but for you to use Pause, I think you must have an account with Wikipedia. So Google, you have with the Google Colab, you can't access it without an account from Google. So if you have a Gmail account, then that's fine. But for Pause, you have to have an account with Wikipedia or Wikimedia or any of the wiki projects, and then you can access it as well. Or alternatively, you can just use the one installed on your laptop if you installed it already. But for the Spring setup, I just use this. And network is really sluggish. I don't really know what's happening. Let me see if I stop sharing the screen, if it fixes it. Just a second. Let me see. Sorry, guys. This is not usually how our meetings go. I just think something just going around today. One of those days, I guess. Wait. Let me see, screen share. Okay, I think we should be up now. Oh, come on, we were off just now and it's going off again. I don't know what Google wants from me right now. I guess this is one of the disadvantages with using Google Colab. When your network is bad, you start experiencing things like this. Well, but yeah, we could as well just use, but I don't want to use my local VS Code. I would have just bring up that, but because I don't want to confuse anyone, especially those that were with us during our the last time we spoke about, we did the first version of the Pythonic journey. So while this is coming up, I think we just need to just do the recap, a brief recap, Python itself. So what the Pythonic journey is, for those that missed the first one, the Pythonic journey is all about just training us on all of us together, taking this journey on Python, learning Python from beginners level at least have a bit of a grasp on Python. And Python is a programming language. And like I discussed in our first event, oh, finally, I think we're up. As like I discussed in our first event, we're choosing Python because it is pretty much easy to use. For you to pick a programming language, you need to look at some certain criteria. For me, one of the criteria I look at is in terms of the ease of learning or ease of use, the ecosystem around it, the use case, what I want to use it for, and then, of course, the ease of learning and the ecosystem. Those are the two major things. By ecosystem, I mean, how many people are using this programming language to do what I want to do. The reason why I look at that is because most times when you're programming, there's nobody that knows it all. So you always tend to hit some brick wall at some point or see some issues. You should be able to reach out to browse or ask people for solutions about that particular brick wall you've hit or something to be able to help you navigate your way around it. So if you're the only one coding or writing that code, if there are not much people using that programming language, it tends to be more difficult for you to build more interesting stuff because you always find issues. It takes you longer time, but I mean, why reinvent the wheel if people have already faced that issue and found a solution? They could easily just tell you. So why go through the whole hustle and yeah. But there are other reasons again, like I said, ease of use. Python is chosen for this training because it is pretty much, I find it very easy to learn compared to the other programming languages that are out there. So those are the reasons why we're choosing Python. And for those of us that do not even know what programming language is just a language like the English language, the Igbo language, the Spanish, the French, like every other language. But the major difference is that with the programming language, it is a communication between the human and the machine. But with English language and every other human language, is a communication between human to human. So, but with programming language, you're trying to communicate between human and the program. You're trying to communicate to a program. So you use the programming language. So Python is a programming language. So that is what we discussed on introduction. And also we looked at the data types of Python. Part of the data types, we look at things like string. We saw what strings are. We said strings are the alphabet and the words, the ABCD, the words, the sentences, all those things are strings. Also, we have another data type, the integers. Integers is numbers, whole numbers. And then we also saw something called floats, which is also numbers, but numbers with decimal points. We also took a look at Boolean. Boolean is another data type, which is all about true or false, basically. It's just, Boolean has just two values. Is that true or it's false? So that is Boolean. And then we saw something called comments, as well as we saw comments. What comments are just a way for you as a programmer to just write something that the program will ignore when reading it, but you could see what it is. Most times comments are usually written just for like a note for the programmer or whoever is reading it. But that is different from documentation anyway, so do not confuse comments with documentation, but we'll talk about documentation much later. And then we also went on to look at the data type operations that can be carried out in these data types. Like what can you do with the integers? You can add numbers together, you can multiply numbers, you can do all the arithmetics and the rest. We also saw some operations that can be performed on the strings, some operations that can be performed on Booleans, some logical operations and what have you. We also saw what variables are. All these things I'm saying, if you missed it, sorry, I won't be able to go back in depth on that. If you do not know what I'm talking about, feel free to watch the previous videos so you get up to speed. So for variables, we said variables are just containers that hold a certain value that you assign to it. So whatever you assign to that container, to that variable or container becomes the value of that container. So whenever you call that value, say for instance, if I call a value, if I bring a container and I call that variable container name, and I say that anytime I say name, I want what should be inside the container should be Benedict. So the system, whenever it sees name, it automatically knows that the value of that container of that name, the meaning of name is Benedict. So that's what variables are. We saw how to use the prints to output a result. We saw how to use inputs like the name sounds to input a result. We also saw, let me see what else we also talked about the logical operations where we saw the less than, greater than, and or, and also not. And then also we looked at conditional statements. I think we stopped at conditional statements where we saw how to give our program options, right? I think we gave a couple of examples. Let me just see if we could scroll down to the examples we gave that on our first event. This is okay. So some of these things you see here are just what we did before previous events. So you could, like I said, just watch the previous video and get up to speed. Okay. I think we stopped at conditional statements, yes. So we stopped at conditional statements. We gave an example. I don't know how many of us can remember this. The example we gave, we said, I think the task we gave was if gave Eze's age, if Eze should input his age and his age is a certain, Eze's age is below 18, we should be able to print for Eze that, sorry, the movie. So we sort of like built like a movie or a theater, what's it called, restriction room, or I don't know what to call it. You know how we have, if a movie is rated 18, you shouldn't see it as an adult movie if the other person is not older than 18 years or 18 years on the dot. So that is what we kind of like did here as a form of example. So if you missed it, go and watch that video to be able to get up to speed on conditional statements. So today what we'll be looking at is actually we'll just dive into list, tuple, and sets. I hope we'll be able to finish that before time runs out today. I mean, we're able to get, if not any, but lists. So in terms of list, tuple, and sets, they are more list and tuple. So these are, the three of them are like, you could look at them like an extension of the data types, right? The only difference is that with data types, in the data types we spoke about initially, we just individual, they are all individual items. It could be, if it's a string, then the whole word is one string. If it's an integer, the whole number is just one integer. But with list, tuple, and sets, we are now talking about a collection of more than one. So we are looking at when you have a list of, just like the name sounds, like a list of items, right? So that is what we are looking at when we talk about lists. So with list and tuple, these are sequential data, and with sets, set is unorderly. These are data that are unordered, and they are collections of values that are unique as well. Don't worry, we'll dive deep. You understand what I mean by that. So by list, so we'll start with list. The reason why I want to start with list is because lists seem to have, there are more functions, more methods, more things we can do with list. Not more things we can do with list. Lists have more functions than the others. And by touching on list, it makes talking about tuple and set a little bit easier. So hence we'll talk about lists. So with lists, first thing I want to do is a variable name. So let's call it, say for instance, if I want to have a list of all the Wikimedia projects, right? What I need to do is just say wiki projects, say wiki, remember how we name our variables, right? Either camel casing or we use the underscore. So wiki projects. So wiki projects. Now, for me to put all this in a list, remember, wiki projects is not just Wikipedia. We have Wikipedia, we have Wiktionary, we have Wikidata, we have Commons. These are more than one. So ordinarily, one would expect before now, you will probably be wondering, how do you do this? Do you concatenate it or what have you? But you could actually put them all in a list and put them in one container. And this is how to do it. To declare a list, all you just need to do is just put square brackets. So square brackets and then the items in that list you want. So for me, I want to put, the first project I want to put is Wikidata. So, and Wikidata has to come as a string. Remember how we write a string with the quotes, either single quotes or double quotes. So write Wikidata. So Wikidata, this is the first. The second one, before I go to the second item, I have to put a comma. The comma shows that we're done with one of the items. This is the second item, puts it in the second position. So this I'll put Wikipedia, and then comma, and then I could put say Commons, so Wiki Commons. And then I could stop here and say, okay, these are wiki projects, right? And then if I want to print them out, I could just easily just say print out. So just if I run this. So whenever somebody says wiki projects, so whenever I type wiki projects, whenever I type wiki project and run this, I should be able to see all the wiki projects here, which is Wikidata, Wikipedia, Wiki Commons. So if you're seeing that what's happening here, we are able to hold, let me print this out for those that are not using Jupyter Notebook. So if I print this out, so we have this. So we have Wikidata, Wikipedia, and Wiki Commons. So like I said, unlike the previous, unlike what's it called? Unlike what we knew before in terms of concatenation and what have you, this with list now, we are able to hold all these three values in one container. So it's not like with concatenation, we are not holding them all in one container. We are kind of joining them together to become one. But this one, they still retain their individual sort of like, let me use the word personality. So the individual thing, but they are all in one container. They are all individual items in one. So they are a list. Like you're going to the market, you want to buy the different food stuff or items you want to buy. So you write a list for them. This is a clear representation of what list is. So if I want to access just one of the items in that list, all I need to do is to put something called, put the location of that item. And that location is what we call the index number. So what I mean by this is, say, for instance, if I want to access Wikidata, I want to print out only Wikidata. All I need to do is say, call the project name, say wiki project, wiki underscore projects, underscore projects, this, and then I put the square brackets, the variable name, the square bracket, and then the index of the index number of the item I want to print. Now this, take note of what's happening next. For me to print if I want to print out only Wikidata, I'll put the location. And the way Python list starts counting, it starts from, in terms of index, it starts from 0 to infinity. So it starts from 0. So this will be 0, 1, 2. So here, if I want Wikidata, I'll just put 0 here. So if I print this out, let me print this out. If I print this out, I'll get just Wikidata. So if you look at this, I'm not getting the entire list. I'm only getting that in index 0, which is the first index, the first location, which is just Wikidata. If I want to print out the one in index 2, all I need to do is, instead of this, I will just copy this and come down here. If I want to print out, say with Commons, right? So Commons is in what position now? It's no longer in 0. It's not in 0, it's not 1, but what, 2. I know if you're counting it normally, you start from 1, 2, 3. But like I said, in Python lists, the index starts from 0 to infinity. So this is 0, 1, and 2. So if I put index 2 here, it should be able to give me commons. So we have commons. And likewise, if I want to print out Wikipedia, I just put 1. And if I run this, it should give me Wikipedia. I hope this is clear by everyone. And so now this is me picking one item in the list, right? But what if I want to pick more than one item? What if I want to select not just one item, I want to select more than one item? I want to select 2 items. What do I need to do? Say I want to select the item in index 0, what's it called, 0 to 1. I don't want to select these commons. So what I will just do is repeat the same thing, but the difference now is instead of just putting the single location here, I'm going to put a start index and an end index. Now I'm going to put, say I want to start from index, so I want to print out Wikidata and Wikipedia, and I want to leave out commons. So the way I will do it is I will say index 0, column, then now I know this might be a bit confusing, but I won't put the index the last index I want to print out, but I'll put the index after the last index. So what that means is instead of putting index 1 here, remember that Wikipedia is located in 1. So this is 0, 1. Instead of putting just from 0 to 1, I want to say print out from 0, and do it is actually what I want to do, print out from 0 to 1. But if I run this like this, the way Python will read this is it will read it as start from 0, but not 1, as in start from 0, but up until you get to 1. If you get to 1, do not print out 1, print out the things before 1. So that is what is, so if I print out this, you're going to see that it will just print out only index 0, which is Wikidata. So in the research, if I actually wanted to print out both Wikidata and Wikipedia, I would say start from 0 and get to 2, but don't print out index 2. Stop before index 2. So that's what will happen now. If I run this now, I'm going to get Wikidata and Wikipedia, which is what I want in the first place. So I'll go over it again. The first thing is, if I want to pick just individual items, the easy thing to do is just pass the location of the item, right, on the list. Say I want to take out only Wikidata. I want to print out only Wikidata. I look for what position is Wikidata located in, just index 1. And then I just print out that. Somebody's asking, what will be the response if you put a number outside the box, the index numbers? Or if you put a number outside the index number, that is wrong syntax. Remember what syntax is? Syntax is just like your English language, what you call sentence structure. Well, those of you that went through English language in school, sentence structure is the way you write your sentences, you make sentences, right? Where you put comma, where you put full stop and all whatnot. For programming, we call that syntax. So there are rules to all these things, just like rules to English language, the same rules apply. We also have rules to programming generally and Python. So the way to do things like print out what I've just shown you now, to print out just the index, a particular item, you just put the index number. But if you put it outside, it's going to tell you that invalid syntax and all whatnot. So can you print 0 and 2 and skip 1? Oh, yes, you can do that. Let me see. So you're saying print out 0 and 2 and skip 1. Let me just copy this and bring it down here. So you want to say something like this. Look at this, look at this. Oh, not this, sorry. The syntax, like I said, let me be sure of the syntax before I go with this. for some weird reason, I'm messing up with the syntax for that. But you can do that. I'm sure you can do that. So like I told you guys before on, what's it called? On our first event, do not try to cram anything, right? Like you can see, even I get stuck at some, like I forget syntax too. All I need to just do is just Google, how do I do this in Python? And if I Google that, I'm having a bad network, so I'm scared of going outside here right now. If I would have just gone and Google it. But all you could do, just Google it and see what is you get solutions on. People will tell you what to, what is the correct syntax is. For some weird reason, I think I've forgotten the syntax for that, but you can do that. You can do that. You can definitely print out just the index numbers you want, 1, 0, and 2, and whatnot. And okay, somebody else is asking, what if I want to print out 0, 1, and 2? I'm not sure I understand what the question is. Okay, first, yeah. Okay, so moving back to where we are, hopefully I'll just, maybe after today's session, I'll check on that and revert to you guys either on the Telegram or tomorrow's session. So moving on, so the important thing to note is if I want to select from 1 up until 2, what I would do is, remember the index starts from 0 until infinity. So I will start from 0, and then this second line is not the last. This second number doesn't stand for the last number. It actually stands for the number before the last number. So what that simply means is, like I said, if I wanted to print out from 0 to 1 and not get to 2, this is how I write it. If I wanted to print out from 0 to the third number, to the third, what's it called? To the third item, I will just do from 0 to, instead of 2, I will change this to 3. If I change this to 3 now, you see that it will bring down for me the third item. So this is it. And so another thing I could do also is, assuming I don't want to just put 0 here, I can also leave it like this. This also stands from, so when it doesn't see a number at the beginning here and just this column, it automatically assumes that you want to start from the beginning up until, not counting 3, up until the second, in our case, the second index number, so which is commons for us. Remember, I start from 0, 1, and 2. Same thing applies if I want to not get to, say I want to start from 1. So I want to pick only Wikipedia and Wikicommons and leave out Wikidata. I could just start from 1, and it's going to start from 1 and just pick out Wikipedia and Wikicommons and skip, what's it called? And skip Wikidata. So the same thing, I could also skip this, remove the last number here and just leave column and run this. If I run it, it's going to do the same thing. But if we have another number there, it's just assume that you want to get to the last. You want to start from 1 and get to the last index number. So that is what this is. So I hope everybody understood this. And this, all what we have been seeing here, what you see me doing here is what we call list slicing. So it's the slicing of the list, like you're trying to cut the list into 2 or into, just take out the chunk you want. So it's called list slicing. So in case you hear the terminology anywhere, this is what it means. So what are the other things we could do in a list? Just like a regular list, you could add to the list, right? Right now we have only Wikidata, Wikipedia, and Wikicommons. But you can also add to this list. You can add, we know that it's not just Wikidata, Wikipedia, and Wikicommons that are wiki projects. We also have other projects. And the way to add to the list is first we start by using something called, some of the inbuilt methods that are in the list, or function, if you like. So the first thing we want to use is called append. So the way to use append is first the name of the list you want to add to. So in our case, it's called wiki projects, which is the name of our list. Wiki projects. So what we want to add is, let's add, what do we add now? Dictionary, right? So to add dictionary, I'll use .append, and then open and close brackets. Inside the open and close brackets, the argument it's going to take is the value. What value do you want to add? So I want to add to this Wiktionary. So I want to add Wiktionary to this list. Now, if I do this, if I run this, it will add Wiktionary to the list. And if I print out wiki data on wiki projects now, if I print out wiki projects, now we have Wikidata, Wikipedia, Commons, and Wiktionary. So initially we had just 3, just Wikidata, Wikipedia, and Commons. And now we have Wikidata, Wikipedia, Commons, and Wiktionary. So if you notice what just happened here, the item we added just went straight to the last part of the list. It just went straight under the list and just attached itself there. So instead of having if I check, there is an inbuilt function called length. So length, if I want to see the length of the list. So if I do this, so wiki projects. So if I check this now, we now have 4 items in this list. Initially we had just 3, which is just these 3, but now we have 4 items in the list. So now we can also use the same way we assess them, the individual items with their index number. We can also do the same. Another thing we can do is, now if you look at what happened here with the append now just went straight, the Wiktionary went straight to the bottom. But what if I want to add this Wiktionary, instead of adding the new item to the bottom, to the last part of the list, I want to add it, I want to add it here. I want it to come before Commons or before Wikipedia. How do I do that? The way to do that in Python is not to use append, but use something we call a method we call inserts. So the insert, how the inserts work is you're going to write, of course, the name of the list you want to add to, and then .insert. Now, insert takes 2 arguments. Do not worry what argument means. I'm going to explain arguments when we talk about functions, but it takes 2 parameters. There are 2 things you need to put inside the insert for insert to work. The first thing you need to put is the position or the index number where you want that new item to go and stay. Say, for my case, I want to put the item, say, before Wiki Commons. And I know that Wiki Commons here is located in 0, 1, 2. It's located in 2. So I'm going to go, I'll say insert position 2. So that's where I want to put the new thing I want to put, comma. And then the second thing it takes is the object itself, the item I want to add. So for my case, I want to add, what do we add now? We've added Wikidata, Wikipedia, Wiki Commons, Wiktionary. What else? What other projects is there? Let's see. Any project coming to head? Any project coming to let's say MediaWiki, right? So I want to add MediaWiki. Remember, is a textual data, so it's a string. So I need to put it in the quotes. Remember, we can use single or double quotes. I've been using single quote. Let me use double quotes. So you see, it's fine using single and double quotes. So yes, somebody's suggesting Wiki Voyage. Let me just use that. Thank you, Awal. So I'll use Wiki Voyage. So we can add Wiki Voyage to this. Now, if I'm adding Wiki Voyage, once I do this and I run the code, it's going to insert this Wiki Voyage, not like the append. Remember what append does? It puts it in the last part, but with the insert now, we're going to see that it's going to put it just before the commons. And if I print it out now, if I print out my entire list, if I print out my list now, sorry, I'm lazy. I don't want to type. I just want to copy all this. Let's copy. So if I print out my list now, you see that I'm going to have Wikivoyage inserted before commas. So which is different from what we had with append. Remember, what append does is it just adds it by default to the bottom of the list. But inserts it in the position you want it to be. So you have to input the position and also, of course, the value you want to add, the item you want to add. Another thing also we could do is, what if assuming I have two lists, how do I add these two lists together? Now, what I mean is we have wiki projects. This is one list. So let me create another list. What do I call this list? Let me just call the list usernames, right? Say usernames, right? And these usernames, the same way we created, remember how we created the other list? Same way, I'll just add, for this username, I'm just going to put my username, would they be? Another item, which other username? Can somebody tell me their username? Let me use their username. Type your username, let me use that here on the chat. So anybody, any volunteer for username? Okay, awesome. Anthony Joseph. So put Anthony Joseph here. Thank you. We can also put another username. I can see another person. Yes, do this. So we have three. Okay, let's add one more. Ash Boy. So this is another username. Remember, see how I'm creating the list, just putting commas before the new item. So if I do this and I run the code, shortcuts for running this is just Shift Enter if you're using Jupyter Notebook. So now I have two lists. I have a list called usernames. I also have a list called wiki projects. If I want to add wiki projects to usernames, say I want to attach wiki project to username. If I use it like this, if I say, so what I want is, if for instance, what I want at the end of the day is to have a list that looks like this, that looks like with the entire username here. And then also with the entire list here. So I want to have something like this at the end of the day, right? If I want to have something like this as my results, that's me like sort of like joining the two lists together. If I want to have this at the end of the day, if I run this code, if I use .append, which we have seen how to add a list, right? I'll add to a list. If I use .append, let's see what .append will give us. So I want to append, say, usernames. Of course, .append, you have to the name of the list you want to add to. So usernames.append. And then what I want to append to this list is, instead of the individual item, I want to just append the list itself, which is another list, wiki projects. Now, if I do this and I run it, let me just print out this. So if I do this and run this code, you see what I will get. Oh yeah, this will just return none. Sorry, it's done, but it returns a value none because we just told it to do a task. If I print out the usernames now, I print out username and run the usernames with S. Oh, sorry, error. So username with the S. If I run this code, already you're seeing that it's giving me an error because I made that initial mistake without I didn't put the S for the usernames. I misspelled it. So if you look at what we have here, remember what append does, right? It just adds the the new item you're adding to the bottom of the list, which is what it has done here, but it's not really what I want. See what just happened. I have Udebi, Joseph, Anthony, Life of Famzy, Ashboy, and then we just have another list here. So you see, this is what we're having. But what I want is for at the end of the day, for them all to be one single list. So this is not working for me, for my use case. So what else can I do? The other thing I could do is to say insert. We've learned how to insert, right? So let's see if insert will do the trick for us. But first I need to revert username to our initial username. So usernames, let me just do this because right now username has all these things inside. So let me just copy this. So I'm redefining username again to mean just this. So if I want to do that again, I'll just come say username. Usernames dot insert. Now, dot insert, what does insert take? We know dot insert takes first the index number, the position where I want to add this list to. So let's say, let's add it, where do we add it? Position, let's add it in the first position, right? Or the last position. Let's put first position is 0. So 0, and then the item we want to add is another list called wiki projects. Right? So if I run this, if I print out our new usernames now, if I print out our new usernames, what we'll have is this. So we still don't get what we want. This went to yes position 0, which is where we want, where we sent it to be. But then again, it's still a list of lists. And that's really, unless this is what you want, you can use insert for this. If this is what you want, you can use, if this other one is what you want, you can use append for it. But we don't want a list in a list. We want to join two lists together to become one. And for us to be able to do this in Python, what we can do, let me revert this back to usernames. So I'm just redefining the usernames again. So for us to do this, we will use something called .extend. So the same thing, usernames, the list I want to create usernames. So instead of .append or .insert, I'm going to use .extend. Now .extend just takes the value. What do I want to? Now it takes an iterable. Right? What iterable means is it takes a list-like item. It doesn't take single item. It takes a list-like item and iterable, something that is more than one. So for my case, I'm going to put, for our case here, we'll put our list, which is wiki projects. So if I run this now, you see we'll have exactly what we're looking for. If I print out usernames, voila. So this is what we are looking, what we want. Now this is one list containing all our items joined together. So the usernames and then the individual, the Wikidata projects, not Wikidata project, the wiki projects. So we have all this in one list. So the difference between .append, so then the key thing to take away from this is that with .append just automatically just adds the new item you want to add to the bottom of the list. .insert takes the position of where you want to add the item, and then also takes the item you want to add. So the insert will put the new item in your preferred position, and then also extend joins two lists together to make it one, to become one. So it opens up the brackets, opens up the list and joins them to be one list. I hope this makes sense. Any questions so far? If you have any questions, just indicate by show of hand and I'll let you have the floor. So since we are all fine for now, the next thing on our this thing is, of course, just as you can add to the list. Oh, okay, Owl, okay, I think you brought down your hand. Owl, do you have a question? If you have a question, just show of hand. Okay, the next thing on our list is just like you can add to a list, you can also remove from a list, right? You can remove an item from a list. You can delete an item from a list. Now, how do you do this? In Python, the way you can do this is, there are two ways. The first is by using something called a method called .remove. So say I take a look at this, our usernames. Remember, these are new usernames now containing both the usernames and the projects. So I want to remove, say for instance, I want to remove Wiktionary. So all I need to do is type the username, that's the name of the list I want to remove from. So usernames, then dot remove, usernames dot remove. Now on dot remove, I'm going to put, what do I want to remove? Which item do I want to remove? The item I want to remove in our case is Wiktionary, so I'll just copy it. So I want to remove Wiktionary. If I come here, I type this Wiktionary. If I hit enter, if I print out usernames now, if I print usernames, we see that we no longer have Wiktionary, but we have all other items except Wiktionary. So this is one way of removing. I could also go and remove Wikidata. So all I need to do is just repeat the same thing I did here. Just copy, paste this here. So just copy, paste this here, and then I hit, instead of Wiktionary now, I want to remove Wikidata. So if I do this, if I print out, our usernames again, I get everything except Wikidata. So we no longer have Wikidata here. We only have Wikipedia, Wikivoyage, Commons, Ashboy, Life of Amzi, Joseph, Anthony, and Udebi. So this is one way of removing items from Wikidata. This is one way of removing items from Wikidata. The second way of removing items from Wikidata is by using something called pop. So the same way we do, we first type the usernames, the list we want to remove from. So usernames. Usernames.pop. Now what pop takes by default, if I do this without putting anything inside these brackets, it's going to automatically imagine that I want to remove the last thing I added to the list. So the last item on the list. So if I do .pop, if I do this and I print out, so if I run this and I print out the usernames, now, if you notice a difference here, with .pop, it's going to remove an item, which is the last thing on the list. If I don't put any parentheses. It will remove the last thing on the list, but then again, it will also hold that thing it removes. So it will tell you, okay, I'm removing this item. Unlike remove just removes it without telling you what exactly, without having hold of what exactly you removed. So that is one of the major difference between .remove and .pop. And remove takes the value, the item itself you want to remove. Pop, if you do not pass anything, by default, it assumes you want to remove the last thing on the list. And so if you look at the list, the new list here now, we have everything except Wikicommerce, which was the last thing on our list. And if I want to remove, say, Udemy, I just repeat the same thing. So I just repeat the same thing. Instead of having nothing on this, I put the index position of Udemy, which is 0. Remember, remove takes the item itself, while pop takes the index position or nothing. If you don't pass anything, it assumes it's the last thing on the list. If you pass an index, it goes to remove the index, the item on that index. So if I do this, it will tell me that, okay, I'm removing Udemy. So if I print out the username, so if I do this and I print it out now, I have Anthony Joseph. So now it's starting from Joseph. No longer, there's no more Udemy on our list. So if you see these are the two ways you can remove an item from the list. Either you use .remove or .pop. The difference between .remove and .pop is that with .pop, the major difference actually is that with .pop, you can still hold the item you are removing. But with .remove, you no longer have access to the item you removed. That is just simple. Pop sort of like does like a recycle bin kind of thing. Like it just has that item. So I can actually say, if I want to remove, say for instance, Joseph Anthony here, I can actually assign, say, removed. I can create a different variable and call it, say, removed item, for instance. This is my variable name. I just gave it remove item. And then in this remove item, I just do the same thing I did here. Remember, Joseph now takes the position of 0. So if I run this, sorry. I run this here. So if I print out, if I run this now, if I print out removed item, what I should see should be, I should see only Joseph. So I'm saying just, so now I have hold of what I removed. And if I also check, if I also print out the usernames, Joseph won't be there anymore because I've removed Joseph from the list itself. So if I print this out, I've removed Joseph from the list, but I'm holding it because I use .pop. But if I use .remove, so let me redo this. Let me just, if I try to do the same thing, have hold of the item I've removed, but instead of using .pop, I use .remove. .remove. If I use .remove, remember .remove takes the item itself. Say I want to remove a username now. Which username do I want to remove? Let's remove Ashboy. So if I take if I remove Ashboy, let me just copy Ashboy. If I pass this in, if I run this, if I try to print out this item that I removed, or this variable now, it will print out for me none because it's not holding anything. This variable. If I try printing this out, we'll have none. Let me print it out. Sorry. We have none. The reason why we're having none is that remove acts like when you know when you permanently delete something, like you don't have hold of it anymore. That's what remove does. But when you use .pop, you sort of like have access to what you're removing. So that is just the major difference between using .remove and .pop. I don't know if anybody have any question at this point. Let me see. Let me just go through the charts. Oh, okay. Awal, I don't know if you still have question. If you still have question, I think you can unmute yourself now. Awal, are you there? Does anybody have any question before we move ahead? Any question on list so far? Okay, nobody. So which means everybody's understanding. That's awesome. Okay, moving ahead. Another thing one could do with a list is same way as you could start a list, as you could remove from a list, you can add a list. You can also oh yes, somebody is asking this on the chat if we could add users to the name, to the usernames. Yes, you can do that by just that's the same thing we showed, either use .append or .insert. If you want to put the name, you want to put that name in on the list. Say for instance, I want to put it in position. What we had here, that's the same thing we had. I think we had insert somewhere up. Okay, so I think, let me see if I could. Okay, I think I'm back. Let me share the screen again. So the last thing we'll be looking at today before we end today's session is we'll also be looking at other things that can be done in the list, which is, for this case, dot reverse. So as you have the list, say for our sake, what we have, our list has shrunk. We now have only life of Amzi, Ashboy, Wikipedia, and Wikivoyage. Say I want to reorder this list. So I don't want it to just start from Livesay. I want to reverse it. I want to start from Wikivoyage, then Wikipedia, then Ashboy. So what I would do is I'll use something a method called .reverse. So the same thing, the name of the list, which is a username. Usernames .reverse. And then open and close brackets because it's a method or function. Then run this. So if I print out the usernames now, I'm going to have my list in a reverse form. So now we have life of Amzi as the last item. What's it called? We have Wikivoyage and then Wikipedia. Remember, we removed Ashboy here, so that's why we're not seeing Ashboy here anymore. So these are the items we have in the list. .reverse. If I do .reverse again, it's going to go back to the initial form. So if I just do this again, we go back to the original form. I print this out. This. So it goes back to what we had before. I hope this makes sense. Yes, we still have our life of Amzi as #1 here. And the last thing, I said this was the last. Okay, let's do one more. There are so many methods, so many things you could do with the list. Just imagine what you could do with your normal list that you're writing with your hand and paper. Same thing. I could also do sort. I could sort the list. You could say this is one way of sorting, but this is not sorting. What the reverse is not really sorting it. Sorting is when you arrange it in, say, a preferred format, say in alphabetical order, or if it's a number, if it's a list that contains a set of numbers, then you might, when you sort, you're sorting it in either ascending or descending order. So if I want to sort, what I would do is say I want to sort, let's sort this. Or let's say I have another, let me use numbers. I've been using strings since. So let's say nums. So these are numbers. So I want to take numbers, say, or let me, instead of using nums, let me just call it ages. So I want to take all our ages. So I'm 5 years old. I'm assuming Aliu is 20. I'm assuming Obed is 50. I'm assuming, who else can I see here? Aliu is, let's give Aliu 100. Aliu, you're old though. Let me reduce Aliu's age. Let's give him 55, yeah? So we have this list. And then remember, we still have our lists. Okay, let me just create another list called names. So on this list, we have, let's just take names. So I started with my name, so Ben. So Ben, Benedict. We could have another name, say Ubed. So we have another name. Who's the third person? I can't remember. Who is it? Was it Ali? Let me see. We had Obed, we had, okay, let me just put Joseph. We have Joseph, and who was the last person? I think that's Aliu's age. So we have Aliu. Yes. So now we have two additional lists, right? Now, if I want to sort, say I want to sort ages, all I need to do is say ages.sort. And then if I run this, if I print out ages, if I print, oh, this is already sorted. Let me read, because this is already in ascending order, right? We have this before this, before this. Let me interchange this. So instead of 20, let's change this to, so that we'll see the effect. So change this to 80. And then, yeah, change this to 60. So I think the oldest person here now is Obed. So if I change this and I sort this now, if I print out our ages, if I print out ages, we'll see that it will sort it for us. By default, it will sort it for us in ascending order. So start from 5 to 55 to 60 and 80, just the descending order. If I sort, now this is me sorting for numbers. If I do the same thing for strings, if I sort strings now, I print it out. It arranges it in alphabetical order. So you see that initially we had Benedict, Obed, Joseph, Aliu. Now it arranged it in alphabetical order. It knows that A comes before B and B before J and J before O. So it arranges that in alphabetical order. So that is what sort does. If I want to sort them in, what's it called? If I want to sort them in the reversed form, say in descending order, there are two ways I could go about it. One way is you could actually just use the dot reverse method. Like after sorting it here, just do the dot reverse here. So dot reverse. So I could actually do this and it will sort it for me in descending order. If I run this now, it prints it out from, oh, sorry, I have an error here. Okay, not here, sorry. This dot reverse here. So if I do this, should be fixed, returning none. Oh, this shouldn't return any value. Okay, let me do it like this. Come here, print this out because this doesn't have a return value. And then names. So if I run this now, you see that it will return for me in descending order, right? It starts from the last Obed. First, it sorts it. After sorting it, it then reverses it. So we have Obed, Joseph, Benedict, Aliu. If I comment this one out and I sort it and I print it out, I will have it sorted properly in ascending order. So this is one way to do the descending order. Another way is to use the argument reverse here. So you could say reverse equals true. So if you run this, it does the same thing for you. So either ways, they're fine, but you might prefer using this first method. Now, this is the way of sorting the list. And if you notice what has been happening, is actually changing our list in place. Like it's changing this, it's not creating it, we're not creating a different list and sorting it, but it's changing this list, it's sorting this list where the original list, it's sorting the original list. What if I want to sort a list, but not the original list? I want to create like a separate version of my list and then sort it. So what that simply means is I have, where's the list again? Names. So let me just copy these names here. So I have these names. So let me call these names 2. I know we're going past time, just 5 more minutes. So I call this name 2, and if I sort this, So if I want to sort this, now, if I don't want to affect the name2 itself, which is this list, I want to create like a separate version, a separate sorted version, and still retain this one, the original one. What I would just do is, instead of saying, I could put a different variable called, so what I mean is I could use something called sorted. Instead of sort, I use sorted. And then sorted takes the names. So mine is name2. So if I print out, if I print this out now, nothing happens. It still retains, so names2. If I do this, it still retains the original, what's it called? Names, the original way it is. So if I want this, like if I want is, but it has started, it created like a different version. But because I'm not holding it in any variable, I can't really access it anymore. So if I want to access this second version of the names, I could just call this names3, right? Names3 equals to sorted names2. So if I print out, if I run this and I print out names3 instead of names2, let me print out names3. So if I do this, what we have now will be the sorted version. So you see that now we have two without touching the original version. Say if you want to work on a list without touching that original one, without sorting the original one, you could use sorted instead of dot sort. So that is that for, we don't have much time anymore. I would have loved to just go through tuple and I think sets. So, but we won't be doing that today. We'll continue from here tomorrow. For now, I just want to hear your questions. Do you have, I want to believe you have questions. I mean, if you don't have questions, it means that you probably are not hearing me. I don't think I'm that good that you wouldn't have any questions. So shoot, questions, guys, question time. If you have any question, this is the time to ask. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. Let me stop sharing the screen. Let me try the video, see if it's coming on now.
Good evening. Please, I asked a question. The difference between list and
tuple. Oh, okay. Yes. Tomorrow we'll see that, but the major difference between list and tuple is that tuple is like a list, but the difference is that list is changeable or mutable, as we call it, while a tuple is immutable. So what mutable means is that you can change it. When you can change something in the list, you can add to it, remove from it, then you say it's mutable, it's changeable. But with tuple, you can't change it. Once you've defined the tuple, you can't change what is in the tuple. And don't worry, tomorrow we'll go through that. You'll see what tuple is and set as well.
Okay, sorry, please, can we use like maybe in a place where we're supposed to use list and we use tuple, our program run like?
Yes, it's still fine. Like it depends on the use case. If you want to work with a list that you're sure you're not going to change, right? The advice is use tuple. Tuple will best work for that. If you're going to work with a list that you know that you are going to be adding to the list or be removing from the list, then you use the regular list. So both of them have their use cases, their pros and cons. Depends on the use case, whichever one applies.
Okay, thank
you. Mohammed, your hand is raised up. Saddam.
Yes, sir, we have enjoyed your class. Thank you very much for the class. And sir, please, the question is, how relevant and important is this application to the society? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Then I guess you probably missed the first event where we spoke about the programming language in general, but just to answer, to indulge you, this is programming language, this is Python, like I said. It just basically makes life easy. if you know how to program, you know how to, so things you normally do repeatedly, you could easily just write a script or a code that does that. You could do so many things with programming languages generally. And even most of your Wikidata basically and all that, the platforms are written as is, you write these on a machine. So basically somebody communicated to a machine. And like I said, the programming language is a way of communicating to machines, to programs. So if you're, for you to be able to communicate to programs effectively, you need to know how to speak their language. That is a layman, I think that's as layman explanation I can give. I don't know if that helps. But I will recommend you go watch our previous edition. I also have tried to have this on YouTube, on our YouTube channel here. So you can also access it here, but you can also access it on the project page, the previous session or version 1 of the Pythonic journey, so that you see what's the introduction, and maybe it will answer your question better. Mohammed, I'm seeing your question. You say, well, we really have listened to you, and I can only be excited about the. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm glad you actually enjoyed the session, Awal. Programming in general, like I said, Python is really easy, and once you put your mind to it, I mean, I feel it's something everyone can get. At least make your daily tasks easy, right? With programming, and it's something we can all. That is the essence of doing this, so that we can all see how at least break that that fear that is tedious. You know, when you're watching movies and you see somebody trying to hack something and they show you those screens and the dark screens and all that, and you feel like it's some complex thing, you can do it. Trust me, it's not that difficult. Any other question? Does anybody have any other question? There's no question. Let me end the live stream for YouTube. Okay, any question? Okay, go ahead.
So apart from this Python, is there any other opportunity to learn other
programming languages? Oh yes, there are other programming languages, and even Python. I like the last time we did this, I recommended some books, some other YouTube channels you can watch. There are so many resources out there. I feel there is no better time than now to learn anything. Like there's nothing you're looking for that you can't find out there. All you just need to do is just search for it and you see it. There are tons and tons of resources on YouTube, on Google generally. Just Google Python and then you have that. For our community, the Wikimedia Africa, we're just doing this because part of the aim is to bring in more. Part of our objective is to bring in more African Wikimedians, more technical African Wikimedians into the technical community of Wikimedia generally. So which is why we felt that, okay, there are some of us who do not know how to program, some of us who are relatively scared of the programming world. So this is sort of like to just break the ice to show you that it's not that difficult. You can learn it. And we're hoping that this helps anyway. So yeah.
So please,
okay.
I'm thinking about other programming languages
yeah, there are other programming languages like Java.
Maybe there's an opportunity for us, like Wikidata can help us learn.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe we'll look into that. Depends on how this goes. And people that are interested in that, and our mentors themselves as well. That are coming on board. If it's what's it called? If it's HTML or whatever programming language, I mean, you can also learn this on your own, you know, like I said, on YouTube and all that. But we'll try as much as we can to bring it to you. So having said all this, we've gone past time. I'm so sorry about that. Sorry about the initial network issues, and I'm so sorry about my camera not functioning today. I don't know what just happened. Like it was working a few seconds before the start of the event. Hopefully we'll get it fixed for our tomorrow's event. We'll continue this tomorrow, the same time, the same, for those of you joining from Zoom, the same link. For those joining from YouTube, the same channel. We'll continue from where we left off. So by tomorrow, we'll be talking more on tuple, on sets, what sets are, and then if time permits, we'll also look at functions and also loops. Yeah, let me stop. So we'll continue this. Let me stop the live stream.